Good morning and welcome to another week of Chronicles. We are picking up the story in Mark chapter 7 and we're going to be thinking all about hypocrisy and true faith in these next few videos. And just to kind of summarise where we are in chapter 7 before we start reading, the Pharisees who are obsessed with outward religion and detail and the kind of externals of following God have come to Jesus and they're asking, why doesn't Jesus' disciples follow all their little traditions and their little outward rules? Why don't they comply with those traditions? And here's what Jesus says to them in verse 6. Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you hypocrites. As it is written, these people honour me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain. Their teachings are merely human rules. You have let go of the commands of God and are holding on to human traditions. And he continued, you have a fine way of setting aside the commands of God in order to observe your own traditions. For Moses said, honour your father and mother, and anyone who curses their father or mother is to be put to death. But you say that if anyone declares that what might have been used to help their father or mother is korban, that is, devoted to God, then you no longer let them do anything for their father or mother. Thus you nullify the word of God by your tradition that you have handed down, and you do many things that are like that.
Tell us what you really think, Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't necessarily start with those words, would you, right? Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you hypocrites. It just goes straight for the jugular, doesn't it?
It does.
He cuts through all of the, nonsense, and goes straight to the heart of the matter, which is the problem. That is the problem. It's their hearts. Their lips are speaking honour, but their hearts are far from me. He says, and. I just don't know anyone like this, or if I do, those people have a very sort of black and white kind of opinion of them, like there's not much nice Jesus here, is there?
No.
And he's speaking to very, very well respected, good people. The top of the class, the teacher's pet, the sort of the most respected men in the community.
Yeah,
incredible.
It is, and as you say, he doesn't entertain their question really.
No.
I mean, they're asking, why aren't your disciples washing and eating properly? And he's not going to get into a long discussion about that with them. He goes, as you say, straight for the jugular.
Yeah.
And it's all the more impactful because he actually quotes both from Isaiah and Moses, who are some key characters in Bible history. And the Pharisees would have claimed 100% allegiance to those people. And yet Jesus is using them to say that you are actually lawbreakers, that your own traditions, which you obsess about, are violating the very law, the word of God.
Verse 8, you have let go of the commands of God and are holding on to human traditions. It reminds you of that it's used a lot, isn't it? That picture of the dog with the bone, and he sees another bone in the water, and he lets go of one to grab the other and loses them both. But you just think, what was the reaction of these men? You've let go of the commands of God. You don't believe the word. In verse 13, you nullify the word of God by your traditions. He's absolutely sort of just going for the. I just can't imagine these guys what they must have been thinking, because they are thinking that they are honouring God. That all these little rules they've got are to protect people from becoming unclean. They've got all these little rules lined up, and he just comes and smashes them all down.
He does, and that's the thing. We've got to be so careful of that, haven't we? Because it is very easy to just impose our own holy laws on people, isn't it? And what starts off as a good idea or a good principle can quickly become a law, can't it? If you don't walk this way or speak like this or wear this or be quiet at this time, then you're disobeying God. It's irreverent. Well, who says that's you made up that command? And it's so easy for us to have these laws which look good, but actually in the end and the example of that he uses here is this honour your father and mother stuff. So Jesus is not just calling them hypocrites, he's actually going to prove that they are hypocrites in the way they treat their parents. So, one of the laws that Israel had, for all their life was to honour the father and mother and to take care of ageing and sickly parents and to respect them. But there seems to be this new law that had come in where it was possible to take your money or your inheritance or your estate and say, well, I'm going to devote that to God. And I'm going to devote that to the temple. I'm setting that aside for God's work, and therefore I can't use any of it to honour and help my parents who might be in need. So on the surface, that would have looked very religious because you could walk around the temple and you could boast about all your cordback.
Oh, did you hear?
Did you hear? He's just set aside.
They're being so sacrificial.
He's just set aside his whole estate. But mum and dad could be lying at home, perishing, aging, when that money could have been used to help them. And that is exactly what Jesus is saying. That these people honour me with their lips. They're all about the show, but their hearts are far from me. They're violating my laws with their selfish traditions.
It's quite a challenge for us, isn't it? I think those words in particular, because we all know, like when we come into public, we all know deep down what we're like. And in all kinds of settings, it's so easy to put on that show, isn't it? To pretend, and so sometimes, you don't necessarily want to be sort of telling all of your deepest, darkest sort of secrets and sins, But at the same time, between you and God, where you stand, and when you're speaking, when you're supposed to be representing God, when you're trying to live before people, the state of your own heart, and I think this is a massive challenge. These people honour me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. And it's a challenge for us. It's a challenge. We challenge you. Where is your heart? Your lips might be saying all the right things, but where is your heart? When you lie in bed at night and you're just thinking through all that you've done in the previous day, that's the time, I think, when our hearts really speak to us, and when all of our actions, all of our failings, they come back to us, don't they? All the ways we've let God down, and that's the time that we shouldn't just ignore them.
No,
we should admit them and go to God and say sorry for that. Otherwise we're just like the Pharisees. And we don't want to be like that.
No.
So
good challenge to finish on.